All right, guys, we're back. This is John.
And it's Eric.
And it's What If Geeks, and we are here for part 2 of our Zombie-Palooza.
Zombie-Palooza.
Zombie Fest. I called it Zombie Fest, and Paul ran away with Zombie-Palooza, and I guess that's funnier.
Palooza inspired me to write a lot of notes. So I
yeah,
think
we
did
got 3 pages of fucking notes on it. We literally made it. It did become a Palooza. This is like a 3-part fucking thing that we're doing tonight. And we're only on part 2. So essentially, this is... the What If Geeks Zombie-Palooza double tap.
Mm-hmm. Double tap, yeah.
Dawn of the Palooza?
Yeah.
All right, that's the name of this episode. Dawn of the Palooza.
Oh, I can't even.
God damn. Sometimes I'm creative. All right, so today's episode, we are... Wow, what the hell are we talking about here?
So we're going to do sort of what makes a zombie film. Like, why do people like them so much? Why are things so relatable? Why the hell are they so popular? Because there's enough zombie movies to be like its own genre outside of horror, even though it's loosely, at least, most of them within the horror genre.
Yeah. And, like, again, just to reiterate what we said last episode, so if you did not see... or did not hear our first episode, go ahead and go check that one out and come back to this one. But Eric and I guess, out of the 3 of us, we're the 2 big zombie nuts. I think I'm a little bit worse than Eric.
Oh, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, because I watch random... Well, we'll get into that here in a little bit, but I watch random zombie movies all over the place, anywhere I can get them, just to see if I can find like a diamond in the rough. And I have. I found a couple of good ones. But we can get to... Maybe that'll flesh out some of this episode before we get into like the last one. I can... go over some of the dumb ways I've found zombie movies like Tubi and Netflix and all this other shit, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we can get into that because part of what makes zombie films successful, which we're going to talk about, is also what makes them shitty and awful. And I think you can probably be the expert witness.
Yes, yeah. As many have known already, I have no problem punishing myself and these other 2 idiots in order to make you guys entertained a little bit. So a la The Room, and don't worry, there's more coming.
Oh gosh.
I've had a few written down that we're going to do, so there's going to be more like The Room. I think one of the next ones soon is going to have to be Green Lantern. We're going to have to do Green Lantern again.
That could be a fun one.
But I think since it's already October, we're going to have to find something. I'm going to find something for October since it's Halloween. Find something bad that all 3 of us can watch. It's something stupid that we're just going to pick apart as part of, one of the other episodes we have in our breakdown for Halloween.
How about that Wes Craven Freddy Krueger movie?
Yeah.
What was that called?
What, The New Nightmare? Or?
Yeah, New Nightmare. Yeah.
Oh yeah, where he's like the actor and shit.
Yeah,
we could probably do that. That might be all right. Write that one down. That might be a good one. Ideas for what we're going to tear apart, because I think it's about time the 3 of us for the holidays, like every once in a while we have to have like where we rip apart a movie like we did The Room. I'll do this one, and I think for Christmas, since Christmas is coming up, and The Rise of Skywalker, we're going to do the holiday special.
Oh.
We're going to
rewatch the
Star Wars holiday special.
I wonder where you even get that now.
You can find it online. I found it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our tangent for today. We're finding movies that we can tear apart. We'll do our homework and come back to you guys. Let you know what we're gonna do. We got to find one immediately for October. So Paul yells at me for messing up his schedule.
All right. So
now going on to the zombie.
In part 1 of the Zombie-Palooza, we went through the history of sort of the evolution of the zombie and how things change. Just to very loosely recap, we'll go over sort of the archetypes that exist in zombie movies, or I guess it's really different kinds of zombies, but it's also a little bit of different kinds of movies, right? So, in rough order of their introduction into the film works, from the 30s moving on up. So there was the supernatural sort of archetype, right, where zombies are controlled by voodoo witch doctors, or maybe it's some demonic thing or whatever. There's that supernatural element.
Yeah, like someone maybe would, where the Evil Dead kind of might have fallen into that, but again, I for me, just with my history of zombies, I don't quite. So it's more demonic possession.
It is, and I think Evil Dead probably more squarely falls into one we'll get to in a minute. But so anyway, there's the supernatural ones. There's the nuclear zombies, which was really World War II Red Scare time frame, where like radiation would turn people into zombies and shit.
Yeah.
And then for a very short, I'm glad to say, very short time, there was the extraterrestrial zombie trope where like alien forces, or I put here, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's definitely aliens. So it's some sort of some sort of outside force.
There's the whole wormwood,
the
wormwood satellite or the asteroid, whatever that causes.
Exactly.
That was an actual thing too. Like people were afraid this thing was going to hit Earth and cause a zombie apocalypse. I don't know how they put all of that shit together, but it was definitely going to happen.
I think that was actually in a movie.
There is a movie called Wormwood.
Oh, okay.
And I'll find the trailer at least for you and let you watch it because the trailer is kick-ass. So I watched the movie. The movie is not half bad. Well, we'll get into that one, I guess, later on.
All right, so supernatural, nuclear, extraterrestrial, and these are my made-up names. I think John agrees with them, though. Okay, so then there was the apocalyptic zombie movies. This was started with Night of the Walking Dead and still continues.
Night of the Walking Dead, he's just combining them all.
Night of the Living Dead, Jesus Christ. So that's where there's like actual hordes of zombies, right? And they're sort of destroying everything and killing people.
That's where that famous line from... the remake of the Dawn of the Dead in 2004?
2004.
When they had that famous tagline, when there's no more room in hell, the dead shall walk the earth. The dead
walk the earth, yep.
Yeah. And they got, what's his name from Candyman? Was it him? No. It was because he was in a couple of movies, and I can't remember his name to save my life.
All right.
Black guy, big black guy.
Yeah.
And I'm lost. Anyway, somebody yell at me what his name is. Because there's people screaming. It's whatever.
Yeah, okay. Probably. Or there will be soon.
Yeah. When we get our listeners.
Well, it's not even online yet. We're just recording it right now.
I know. That's true.
No, so the apocalyptic, and there's not necessarily an origin story in a lot of those apocalyptic.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens.
It just happens, and you don't ever know why.
And that's typically what happens is you get at least for that one small area, like you said in the last episode, it's usually contained to a smallish area, maybe a town or a city or something, a state at the most. But you'll get that first little outbreak where you see people in their normal lives for the first 5 minutes of this movie, and then all of a sudden something happens. And like the Night of the Living Dead, they're going to visit someone's grave, and they're coming to get you, Barbara. There's one now, and it is one.
And it is one now.
And the fucker comes and kills him. So yeah.
He falls and hits his head or something.
Yeah. The zombies in the first Romero, but they actually did kind of set a precedent. I guess we can do it now. The first Romero one, while it was the apocalyptic thing where there's just dead or rising or whatever, they don't necessarily just start tearing at flesh. They do eat people, but they don't necessarily just start tearing. They attack like a physical attack, in that very first one. That zombie, the first zombie they encounter in the graveyard, pushes Johnny to the ground and smashes his head on a tombstone.
Gets his head on a tombstone. Yeah.
And there's later on, spoiler alert for 1968. There's a little girl that turns into a zombie, and she kills her mother with a shovel, like a little spade. She stabs him, and there's this really weird scream, shriek sound thing that goes along with it, and she stabs her with this. Which, again, the zombies nowadays don't do that. In any other zombie movie, they didn't do that. But there they did. But then it does set a precedent for later on when people were complaining, after Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, you don't really see them. Dawn of the Dead, you don't see them do it. But Day of the Dead, you see a little bit where they're experimenting with that kind of shit. But then later on, when they do the Land of the Dead, there's the one zombie called Big Daddy, who picks up one of the soldiers' guns and looks at it and accidentally shoots it, and then it's like they're remembering shit about being human. So he's walking around with this gun, and then he starts putting tools into zombies' hands to smash windows and shit, and they start using them. People complained about it a little bit, but if you go back to the very first one, it was already set there that they will use tools, So I don't know. Me personally, it's not, it doesn't really bother me, but it's not something that I picture zombies doing. I just picture them attacking. Because I'm so used to now, the current Dawn of the Dead, Walking Dead, kind of zombies where they're not doing that. They're just
they're
walking around trying to bite people. Yeah.
One focus, one mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but they have done it. So go ahead, moving on.
All right. So from apocalyptic, you got it's really an extension of the apocalyptic thing, but the pandemic. So this is where
28 days later.
Yeah. So there's a virus, and that's what's causing it, and it tends to be in these much more widespread than just a localized area, because they're spreading a virus around, basically, right?
Yeah.
There is a super small subgenre that only exists probably in the early 2000s and mid 2010, but that's the near human zombie archetype, where like the zombie is actually kind of like a person. We were talking about in the last episode, the warm bodies and the Rom-Zom stuff. Yeah, exactly. Pushing Daisies and
iZombie.
Santa Clarita's iZombie series.
iZombie, a really good one. Yeah. We didn't really touch on that one last.
We didn't. But so there's this new near human thing. It's almost not zombie at all, but I mean it is. It is, but
Z Nation on Sci-Fi is
Z Nation, yeah.
Apparently, it's got a fan base. A lot of people like it. I've only watched 1 or 2 episodes of it. It looked like it's, one of those things that I would watch when I'm bored.
I watched 1 episode. I should watch some more tonight, actually.
Yeah, I think maybe sometime this weekend, whenever I'm not doing anything, I'll try to check out a couple more. But yeah, let me know what you think, because I watched like 1 episode or so, and I remember one person at work really, really liking it, and then someone else he will not, to this day, for the last 4 years, will not let go of the fact that there was a scene in there where there was a baby and got turned into a zombie, right? Mm-hmm. Much like Dawn of the Dead. I think that's where they got the idea. But he says, here's his argument. He goes, this baby is like maybe a month old, barely moving in this bassinet thing, right? Gets turned into a zombie, and all of a sudden in this show, this thing is up on 2 feet running around. He's like, that's impossible. I said, you're talking about a fucking zombie baby.
Yeah.
But I also get his argument.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there should be some type of continuity in, like, the baby never even progressed to walking in the first place. So I get his argument, but I just laughed that he's so adamant. So Josh, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you. You know that. He's adamant about this one part of Z Nation, and it makes me laugh every time he says it, because he goes, right, like, there's a fucking zombie baby running around. He couldn't even walk when he was all. I get it. But because it also goes back to, like, one of my arguments about a lot of these science fiction shows or horror movies, whatever, is you give me, what do they call it? The suspension of belief, right? You give me a certain criteria in the beginning, or as you're setting it up. This is what I'm supposed to buy off on. And then from there, you have to live within your own set of rules. I don't know if this movie had done that or not with said zombie baby, but I get his argument, and it just makes me laugh, because every time it comes up, he's like, "Fuck Z Nation." He's so mad. So yeah, I get it. You have to keep it within your own set of, like, zombie rules, and we can get into that later on too with something.
Yeah, like rules.
Which ones are your favorite ones, and what kind of zombie apocalypse you would like to live in?
Yeah,
there you go.
Right.
All right, so now we're on.
So what was I at? I was at near human. Okay, so the post-apocalyptic. So I think this was the final evolution, and what happens in these, which is basically like the Walking Dead series, but there's probably movies that follow this. Really, Zombieland being a Zomcom still follows this, but basically where other humans are as much, if not more, of a risk to you than the zombies themselves, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The zombies become this external force that's always there or whatever, but what you're really worried about, what's really going to surprise you, what's really going to be like, give you the shock moments,
how bad the other humans are,
bad other people are towards the main characters, towards each other, whatever, or even the main characters flipping because they're put in a shitty situation where they're about to die, and then they have to do something terrible to make it out. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the last evolution of it. And it's not to say that each of these are their own little finite groups. I mean, things can borrow from this. I mean, like post-apocalyptic and pandemic go together hand in hand lately. Where you have a virus or something is causing the outbreak, but then you also have all this human interaction and people are terrible.
No, sure, because essentially Walking Dead, I mean, nobody really knows why it started, but it is essentially something that is in every human, so it could have been some type of airborne virus, but every human has it, and no matter how you die, you're going to come back unless you get incinerated or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And even there, you had mentioned something about sometimes where the heads will get chopped off or they'll keep on moving or whatever, right? Santa Clarita, right? Walking Dead, too. If the head is completely cut off, but the stem or whatever isn't, like, severed, like the governor in one of the, in the book and in the show, had fish tanks full of zombie heads. And they were moving.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's a shot in Fear the Walking Dead where people hung zombie heads from, or walker heads, they don't call them zombies, walker heads from trees.
Oh, are they not zombies?
Yeah, right, yeah. They never use that term. Which, ironically, they never did that in the original Night of the Living Dead either.
Yeah.
They called them ghouls.
Yeah, they did call them ghouls.
Yep.
He continued to refer to them as ghouls all the way through sequels. And
So there you go. So the zombies is just the voodoo shit, but whatever. Yeah, in Fear the Walking Dead, they had it was like a warning thing. They had heads of walkers hanging in trees, and as people were walking by the trees, they were sitting there like, just trying to bite them and shit. It was like, what the fuck? It was really cool. So again, Walking Dead kind of they do push the envelope with some of the cool stuff they tend to do with zombies.
All right, so that was it. That was the overview of the archetypes that came out of the evolution of what is that, 80 plus years of zombie filmmaking and stuff in the US, and what we got from it. So onto the real meat of this topic, which is why the hell are all these so successful? Like, what about them makes them good, and what about them makes them terrible? Because I know you want to broach that subject too.
Yeah. Well,
So I'll say this, at least for all the good ones, there's always some sort of subtext to the zombie story arc, right? There's always something extra. It's not even always intentional.
Like Romero with his social...
Yeah, so Romero did that specifically and intentionally, right? So on the first one, he did the civil rights sort of thing, and the main character was black, but he wasn't a stupid black person, which is what a lot of directors before him that had black characters had done.
Back then, please don't be coming after us.
No. This is
fuck it. I know. If you take that the wrong way,
60s when he started making this, but so he took that the black character, the main character Ben in his film is strong, and he's independent, and he's able to defend himself. It made him more human, but then he still has to rub against the white people, or at least some white people in the house during the thing.
He's got a big conflict with at least one of them.
Yeah.
Has a big trust issue with him.
And then in the second Romero film... Consumerism, exactly. Yeah. So
they hide out in the mall.
Yeah, they go to hide out in the mall because they're familiar with it and they know it, right? But then all the zombies are fucking hanging out and they won't leave because in life they were there.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of Romero specifically put those things in there, though, right? He specifically added those things. They're not really part of the story. I mean, they are part of the story, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He added them intentionally, right? There's also those unintentional ones that exist in lots of different... So, example, the pandemic zombie movie archetype, right, where a virus is spreading around. Like, in today, real world... There are viruses that outbreak. We had the Ebola thing, H1N1, swine flu, bird flu.
HIV.
Yeah, HIV, right? So the idea that a virus could sort of rip through human society, like all across the world, even really quick, and there's not shit we can do about it, that's like playing on a real fear on somebody. Even though this is a zombie movie and they've just turned it into a virus-based zombie, I think that plays on like a real fear people have, not about zombies, of course, but just about how like fragile human society could really be to something like a virus. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to turn people into zombies. That's not even the point. I just mean that there's a subtext there that isn't quite intentional, but people are like, shit, that could really fucking happen. This virus could spread around. So that's what I mean by
we got in a panic over people mailing anthrax. It was really, it was like two dudes.
So there can be both the intentional Romero style subtext and the unintentional. They're just sort of playing off of a real world fear or a thing in the real world, and they're not even doing it on purpose. It's just what's sort of developed in the film, genre or whatever, and people can actually connect to it.
Yeah.
So I have a whole bunch more on my list here we can talk about, but I mean, I think part of what makes movies shitty is when they don't really focus on any of this and they make it about, you know, a random emergence of zombies and then people just killing them.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of shit thrown together, which is half of the movies on my worst zombie movie list. Most of them. Some of them are just dumb and I couldn't get through them all. So... yeah, and I've seen a lot of bad shit just for you people. So
we can go over bad examples if you want, but
yeah, we'll get there in a second.
Okay, so other things that get played on, intentional or otherwise, right? For anybody that's even pseudo-religious, biblical end of the world prophecy. I mean, that's in every goddamn zombie movie by default.
I like how you threw in goddamn there.
I'm going to say goddamn at least one more time because it's in the notes. But yeah.
Intentional or unintentional? See,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So you know, there's that. It's like a secular version of the Bible end of the world.
Sure.
You know,
it goes back to the whole one. There's no more room in hell. They shall walk the earth.
Exactly.
And, here they come.
Yep. So another one is about just general, not you know, secular. Again, this isn't religious, but people's end of the world anxieties, right? We're always getting shit thrown at us about climate change, about food shortages, about who knows. I mean, there's so much stuff, a virus outbreak, but that the end of the world is coming, collapse of government. There's just so many fears that people run off of, right? And generally in little circles, but you know, people pick up on that stuff and they attach to it. And again, every zombie movie sort of plays on that. And what the fuck is going to happen? You think to yourself, what will happen to me when this goes off, right? I don't think that. I'm just saying.
Right,
speaking in the royal we think about what might happen when one of those happens. And these zombies.
That reminds me of a picture I want to throw up on our website when we do all this too. I'll tell you about it later. It's a funny one.
Okay, so. Yeah, that's what these zombies movies play out on that, because you don't know what's going to happen, and then you watch a zombie movie. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, I could see that. You know, people will band together, and how is it going to play out? Oh, they win this. You know, I think it plays a lot on that too. Just sort of those are quelling anxieties, but in the weirdest way possible, because it's just a fictional story about.
Sure, yeah, but and then it takes the fictional aspect, but then it takes things that are happening in your real life, and it cranks them up to 11. Like the mistrust and that kind of shit among humans. Like, okay, well, you know, when the shit hits the fan, how quickly things are going to break down. That's what they keep showing, you know? Yeah,
I agree. And I'm actually going to get to something close to that. But there's the fear of magic, of voodoo, of the supernatural. That's not played on in all movies, but I think there's a lot of people that have that sort of anxiety. It's what draws people to just horror movies in general, or you know, creep out movies, or movies like Supernatural, found footage films, and it's all this sort of, could the supernatural be real? I mean, that can be a draw for people. It's funny. I mean, this list that I wrote up was just sort of off the top of the head, thinking of different things. I mean, there's a dozen things on this list that you can find at least half of them in every zombie movie, right?
Sure.
And it's hard to find any other movie in any other genre where you sort of have all these, even if it's indirect and unintentional, but these connections back to real life sort of thing. And you think I'm being crazy because I'm talking about a zombie movie, but I'm being serious.
Well, no, because the zombies, to touch on that was the same thing I was thinking earlier, which makes it so successful, right? Why people love them so much is because even though it is a zombie thing, right? It's the zombies are going back to like my point of suspension of disbelief. For the most part, the zombies are the only part of that you have to suspend your disbelief, right? Yeah. Everything else is based in the real world, where maybe you get shit like vampire movies or werewolf or any of those other supernatural monsters, classic monsters that get lumped in with zombies, right? They don't. There's still, then it just becomes a straight up like, okay, these people are making silver bullets to kill the werewolves, or these people are studying how to, you know, hunt vampires at night or during the day, or whatever. So it's this whole nother story where it loses a lot of the, I guess, daily life element that zombie movies still try to keep.
Twilight became all about vampires and werewolves, as did what's her name? Underworld, the whole Underworld series.
Underworld,
yeah,
which is really good.
I like it too.
We'll probably touch on the vampire werewolf shit later on.
But they did forget about the real world. That movie became all about the conflict of the supernatural elements.
You barely saw anything outside of their world, right?
Yeah.
Where the zombie conflict is always steeped in, it's centered in the human part of it.
Yeah, a real person that's normal. Or a group of real people that are normal and living in the real world.
Dealing with this shit. So I think that's one of the keys that makes them really successful is the human element stays focused.
So I heard this from somebody else actually, but I think it might have some truth to it. Only here in the U.S., but it happens to be that zombie movies are incredibly popular here in the U.S. more so than probably anywhere else. Although there are some contingents in like Italy and stuff that love them, but for the most part, it's big here, right? And that's
where Zombie and Zombie 2 kind of come from Italy.
Yeah, the Zombie, which was actually that was back. I think we talked about that on the first episode.
They wrote that as a sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
And then it got a different name when it went to Italy, and then
became Zombie.
Yep, and then that director ended up making his own movies, which were essentially a ripoff of the.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we already covered that for the most part.
And that's where you see the zombie shark fight.
Yeah, zombie shark fight.
You're welcome, America.
So anyway, I heard this theory that particularly the post-apocalyptic zombie stuff, the newer stuff, really plays on. There's a lot of people in the U.S. who have this sort of libertarian, less government, more freedom mindset, and they like zombie movies.
Are they out there? No.
They like zombie movies because of that. Because it's like the government has fallen, and how would people react? And we don't obviously know how people would react, but all of these movies, for the most part, show people self-organizing into little groups and defending each other, and they may have conflicts with other groups.
So all the anti-government people really love these movies,
but they always get what's coming to them. The shitty people in these always get what's coming to them, right? So it's kind of like see, the world really could be okay. With that.
The only problem with that thought process is most of the people that don't like the government also don't like the guns. And you kind of need those. And I know there's the argument. We'll get into the argument later with the survival where you need a blunt instrument too. Yes, because gunshots will attract other zombies. But at some point you do need guns. So,
well, yes, probably.
It goes back to my other joke about the picture I'll tell you about later.
So I'd say at least half of the movies where an origin. The origin is like some government secret group doing an experiment, or the army or something, right? And they've let this virus loose on accident. They were
trying to Living Dead. Yeah. All those barrels. You would think after 5 of them fucking things, the barrels would be gone.
Yeah. So not everybody, but again, a large number of people always have this thing in the back of their head about the government's doing some kind of conspiracy bullshit. There was real stuff that happened in real life to support this, experiments out at USAMRIID at Fort Detrick, and there's all kinds of weird shit that the government has done, but it doesn't go to conspiracy level. But I think the zombie movies play on that. A lot of them blame a government or blame some experiment that the government sanctioned or some other bullshit, right? And people can get down with that because they think that that's probably really happening somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I would agree. I think, I think they're looking for ways to blame the government for shit. So the zombie. I can't think of the ones. No, because even some of the bad ones I watched had something to do with some type of government spill.
It's a lot. It's a lot of them that have that. A lot of them
do have it. Yeah. Even the Return of the Living Dead ones are the main ones because they have that's property. The government. The really very first one, the drum falls off of the army truck.
Yeah.
Like the very first one.
But even going more forward, I mean, you have the T virus and the G virus and all the experiments that were going on, which was a private company, I guess, but it was government sanctioned.
They were kind of government sanctioned, umbrella corporation. Yeah, they may or may not be Japanese. You never know. See, you gotta watch them.
But anyway, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that. It's not uncommon, even if it's sort of an ancillary plot point, to blame the government for the original outbreak or for allowing it to happen. Even if they didn't cause it, sometimes, say World War Z, they just didn't do anything to stop it. And they could have.
Yeah.
And they just didn't do anything. Nobody reacted fast enough. Nobody believed it. Well, whatever.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I guess this is the perfect time to get to this one. Every zombie movie you see nobody has ever seen a zombie movie before. like they don't exist, which is fine. And I guess you need that in order to have the breakdown of society that fast, because it happens immediately. Like the military,
it does happen quick.
Which the military, I mean, okay, I get it. Like if something you haven't seen before comes at you, even the military is going to be like, "What the fuck is this?" And they have to coordinate a plan to fight it. But I mean, you and I were both in the military. I think they'd hold out longer than 2 days. I just like before they completely broke down into. Now, I guess there's also the human aspect of it, where you have like military and police or whatever trying to run home and protect their family. I get that, right? So there's that.
This is actually the next point on my list.
Oh,
which
okay.
is
All
that
right, cool.
especially modern movies, the modern post-apocalyptic stuff, they really play on how fickle humans are, like human nature, and what people will really do when it comes down to it. And sure. I know you say 2 days, and I agree with you. That's ridiculous. Even 2 months is probably ridiculous. But there does come a point where you can say to yourself, like, yep, at this point, I'd be fucking gone too, you know?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Fuck these people. You know what I mean? I'm going home. I want to protect my friends and my family. And
if there's a zombie apocalypse, I do get the fact that, like, yeah, okay, if I'm at work, even if 20 years in the Navy, dude, if I'm, like, home on shore and something like that happens, yeah, sorry, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm not protecting this base. I'm going to find my family, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So...
yeah, I could definitely... That could definitely happen. That's easy to believe, right? It doesn't even have to just be the military thing, though. Like, the fickleness of humans is broad. Like, there are a lot of people... not saying myself, but they can say to themselves, you know, if this, that, or that happened to me, you know, I would kill a person over that. Or, you know, if it was my family,
I'd that on a daily basis. And there's no zombies, but
yeah. But I mean, definitely there are a lot of sort of what's the right word? There's just sort of like a lot of innate human stuff. I'm trying to. There's a word for this that I just can't think, but I mean, it's something like raw and something that comes from nature. You know, like that. You could do some fucked up shit if you had to.
Yeah,
in a real survival
it's in the primal
scenario.
nature.
Primal. That's it. Primal is the word I'm looking for that I just can't fucking find. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, there's these very primal urges or whatever, these primal reactions that you have to things, and you control yourself in a regular society, but in a zombie scenario, I'm not sure that you would. And I think people can easily relate to those things to say, yep, I would have smashed that fucking guy's head too. Yeah, no problem. You obviously wouldn't do that today, but in the zombie scenario, you know, in the right moment, like, this fucker's going to get us all killed. Yep.
Yeah, sure. and to the point, which we can get into in the next episode when we talk about best and worst and favorites and all kinds of shit within cinema and TV. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm dying to. The one movie that I've seen that literally says it mentions zombies. It's The Dead Don't Die with Adam Driver and Bill Murray. They play the two cops.
I'm at a loss.
I showed you that. Yeah, it just came out like this year.
Oh, okay.
I showed you a trailer for it. I'll show you when we shut this one off. I'll show you again. But that one, there's like, you know, zombies walking around eating people, whatever. And of course, you know, the rest of the cops are like, "Oh, what's going on? Is did a rabid dog get a hold of somebody or whatever?" And like Bill Murray and a couple of the other cops are talking, and they turn around to Adam Driver and they're like, "What do you think?" And he goes, "It's zombies." Just straight like, I'm telling you, it's zombies. And so right off the jump, he's like, "No, it's zombies." So it's one of those things, like, totally turns it on its head. Where it's definitely one of those, you know, Zomcom things. But and it looks really good, so I want to watch it. I missed it when it was in theaters. I think it might still be in theaters, but I missed it. There's no turning back for me on that one now. There's too much shit for me to do. But I'll find it like online or I'll rent it when it comes out digital, whatever. But I'm looking forward to watching that one. It looks really funny.
All right.
So, yeah. So, other than that, yeah, they never... no one's ever seen a fucking zombie movie before. So, I think maybe we have a leg up on all those people if it actually happens.
Everybody's seen a zombie movie though. It's
That's
so
what I'm
bizarre,
saying. Yeah,
yeah.
like as soon as you see a zombie stumbling down, I see drunk people sometimes, and I'm like, "That's a fucking zombie." I'm getting ready to kill him.
Yeah. So the last thing I think we'll talk about, unless you got more, is another interesting one I heard from another party, but I thought it actually might make some sense, was that the zombies themselves are sort of a portrayal of like the parts of yourself that you don't like, the parts of humans you don't like. Like we talked about the consumerism aspect.
Yeah, it goes back to the Romero thing.
Yeah.
Like he's specifically put it in there that the parts that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah, but I think there's maybe more than just that one, because there's like the Shaun of the Dead we were talking about. He's droning along, and earlier that was part one, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But so he's droning along in his life, and he doesn't realize what's happening. But it's almost like he's a zombie at the beginning, even though he's not. You know, it's like he's a zombie, and he's just droning along in his life, and he's just doing things, and he doesn't really have any inspiration or any ambition or anything. It's just like one track mind. Yeah, I gotta eat, gotta go to work.
Right, yeah.
You know, and he's just dragging along, and that people could actually relate to that in a zombie. Now, I don't feel like I could, but maybe I can, and I just don't realize that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think they even touch on the same aspect in like Warm Bodies, but it's like flipped, where even the zombie R is like tired of doing the same thing because they're zombies. But like, I think it literally like does that. Like it takes what you just said here and it puts it from the zombie's point of view, though. Where like he's just tired of like shambling around and doing whatever. You know, he doesn't like doing it. And he's got his own little hideout at an airport that he kind of hangs out and like collects random shit, whatever. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, I think they do. They really do talk to a lot of human traits, and they kind of hold up a mirror to the human race and make you think. I think that's one of the reasons, again, why they're so successful.
Yeah, I mean, so that's basically a dozen different elements that we just talked about between you and I here, and I'm sure that you and I have less than half the ideas that exist in the world about why these are successful, but
I don't know. Have you seen Society lately? I think we got a lot of the good ideas in the world nowadays. I mean, according to my Twitter feed.
It could be. Well, yeah. If you judge it off your Facebook or Twitter feed, you might be right. But I mean, anyway, I think there's probably more things that people can relate to in a zombie movie. But I feel like a zombie movie hits so many different aspects of sort of primal fears and suspicions and like all these other things that just make it likable. I think, I can't remember, I read a number today that there had been just since 2000 like some crazy like 132 different zombie movies made. Granted, most of them aren't good, but
I showed you that Tubi streaming service.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see something fun outside of Netflix, and everyone's got all these random streaming sites that they use. I found Tubi, Tubi. You can download an app to your iPhone or whatever. I'm sure it's on Android too. I've got it on my TV, so yeah, you can get it anywhere. I sit on my phone, and like whenever I don't want to watch whatever anyone else is watching, and I've got nothing else to do, or I'm going to bed early or whatever, maybe I'll jump on this app, and there's all kinds of movies on there. A lot of movies you do know, and then like I just typed in search zombie, and I showed Eric, and there are so many movies on there, and he's like, I haven't heard of 90% of these. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I have at least turned on 90% of these.
And they were all terrible, right? That's how most of them were terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw some actual, good movies on that list too. I mean, it's one in every 20 or something. But.
Yeah, like the Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which we'll talk about later. That's on there. There's a handful of different movies, but there's also like, if you get away from just the zombies, there's TV shows on there. It's much like it's just another Netflix, but it's not as well known. Did
you say it was all horror or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's Shudder. Shudder.com.
Shudder, yeah. And
that's where they're redoing the Creep Show.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to say it again on this episode too. If anyone is actually signed up for Shudder, that's SHUDDER .com. They've got a whole list of movies or whatever that this trailer keeps beating the hell out of my computer and my YouTube every time I go on there. So I have to. I've been considering looking into it for about a year, but I could have sworn it had a subscription-based kind of thing. So I stayed away from it. But if anyone's been on there and knows for a fact whether or not it does, let me know how much, because I'm going to look into it and see if you can beat me into finally looking into it. And I think that's it.
I think that's it. So we're going to move on to part 3, which will be All the Ways to Die and All the Ways Not to Die. I think we'll figure out a better name for it. But this is
Megadeth,
1,000 Ways to Die and How Have You Never Seen a Zombie Movie? We're going to combine those into one.
Yeah. Why the fuck? What do you think? It's zombies. Yeah, and then we'll do our top best and worst zombie movies. I'll go over all the worst ones.
I didn't do a worst.
Because I'm an
list.
ass.
All right,
but we'll get into that. So
we're wrapping up part 2. So that's what makes a zombie film, why everybody loves them, and why are there shitty ones.
Hell yeah! Let us know what you guys think. What your favorite parts of zombie movies are. If you think we missed anything in this one, I totally. Here you go. Surprise! I missed the complete sign off on the last episode, so we'll just I'll throw it in later, like post production, where I tell you guys, hey, hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that shit. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Part 2, and stay tuned for part 3, you motherfuckers. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Ann.